Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am Konstantinos from D6 Learning, and I am joined by Giorgos again from D6 Learning and
Hello,
by
everyone.
Manos. Thank you, by Manos and Giannis from Arcweave. As I imagine you're all aware of, we are going to have a webinar slash workshop on narrative technical design using the game design tool Arcweave, which is, as you will see, both easy to use and very powerful. Also, pretty much tailored to all our narrative needs. Now, before we move on and start looking at the tool, I would like to say a few words on narrative design, and actually to remind you that it's a very different discipline from story writing. Whereas story writing is, deciding on what it is we want to tell people and the sequence in which events happen. Narrative is all about the ways in which we tell the story. And narrative design in games is A, how we tell such a story, and B, how we make certain that the structure of our story fits in nicely with the overall game structure. Now, as things have been evolving, and as all of you must have noticed, narratives tend to become, more complex and more evolved and more interesting as time goes by. There has been a rising demand for some technical skills for our narrative designers. We want them to eventually, understand some fundamental scripting, understand how logic works, and perhaps even understand how variables work. And they should be able to use them. They should be able to craft interactive and branching narratives that are able to track a variety of things. So there is this rising tendency to call the people who are technical and narrative designers, and call them technical narrative designers as one would expect them to. So, having said that, Giannis is with us, and Giannis is the narrative director at Arcweave. Giannis, you could say a brief hello here.
Hello there.
Hello there, or here,
Hello here.
yes. Exactly. And Giannis will be showcasing Arcweave to us. And in case you're wondering, which you most probably are, Arcweave is this web-based collaborative tool that is meant to help us design and prototype narratives. It is one of the few technical narrative design tools around, and it's a tool that we can use to actually design stories, to sketch out our overall interactive stories, and it can help us create and express serious gaming scenarios. It can be used for therapy. It can do a variety of different things, and all this in a pretty much friendly and easy to use environment. It's also very much iteratively focused, so it lets you to quickly test stuff and change it. And it is something that's already being used by several game studios. It's been quite widely used by narrative designers and writers, but also by VR and AR studios, digital agencies, schools, and universities, and generally speaking, quite a bit um, in education, as well as in other sectors such as therapy and mental health advocacy and this sort of thing. So I don't know, Giannis, am I missing something incredibly crucial?
No, you're doing well. It's just
Well enough.
as an overall thing, it's quite versatile and can be used by people who are installation artists, like performance artists or psychologists. But mostly, of course, is game studios, VR, IR studios, interactive fiction writers, etc.
Excellent, thanks a ton. And I also have to add, from the little experience that I've had with Arcwave, that it is indeed very friendly and very easy to use. It's almost intuitive. It's quite visual, and as you said, it is actually versatile, but it can also be very very easy, apparently, and according to what programmers tell me, and probably they don't need to tell you. It's pretty effortless to integrate with a variety of game engines such as Unity, Unreal, or Godot. So this is a very rough introduction to what we will be talking about and what the workshop will be about. It's going to be technical narrative design with Arcweave. This is a webinar that's being brought to you by D6 Learning, which is a soon to be fully revealed online school. And actually, we will be sharing our links and socials on the chat, and Arcweave, who are the people behind the tool of the same name, the titular tool, Arcweave. And again, we will be sharing socials and Discord invites and everything you might need in order to follow. So anyway, we will be sharing our links, and also feel free to ask any questions or make any suggestions using the chat. In case you have noticed, actually Zoom does have this chat functionality, but we will be setting aside a few moments towards the end of the workshop for a short Q&A session or to answer specific questions. So having said that, it's on to you, Giannis, to start, this
Thank you.
Short journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. As Konstantinos said, we're going to be using Arcweave for this presentation, which will be about the fundamentals of technical narrative design. And what you see here is the UI of Arcweave. It's an empty project. Well, almost empty. I do have some assets here, but we'll go through these later. And what we see here is a board, which is where most of the design is happening. And what we usually do in Arcweave is create thingies called elements and connect them to each other. So we have some icons here, and the first one says drag a new element, and we can just drag that. Or, as you can read here, we can double click anywhere on the empty board or on the board to create our first element. So let's do that. There goes our first element. And there goes our second element. So this is what an element is. It has a title and content. And we can just write our first example story. We can say that this is the beginning, in Greek, beginning. And of course, let's just say hello to the world. Not sure if this is written with a comma, but Konstantinos will correct me on this, I'm sure. So hello world, yes, great. And we can then connect to our next element. So we can create a sequence of elements by going to the edge of our first element and click and drag our first connection and just drop it into the other element. So we have two connected elements, beginning, middle, and now we have our example story, and we can test this story right away if we press this icon, this button here, which is the play mode. Now let's see what happens if we do that. We get a warning that we cannot actually play the story because we haven't set the starting element of our story, and this is reasonable because Arcweave doesn't know where to begin. So if we go to our beginning element, right click, and we can set play mode start, and now it gets a little orange star, so we know, and Arcweave knows where the story begins. So now if I switch back to my tab, it has automatically updated to hello world, which is our first element, the content of our first element. And then we see a little arrow here, which basically means if I click somewhere, I get the next element, which is, yep, hello again. This isn't very interesting. So let's develop this a little further so we can see something that looks more like a story. First of all, let's create a second element so we can make our first choice. A second, did I say? A third, yeah. Middle number 2. Okay, so then we do the same thing. We connect with a connection. And if we replay that, We get hello world, which is the content of our first element. And we get the titles of the other two elements, which are not great as option text. So what we can do is go to the connection itself and double click the connection. And now we're able to create labels with the exact option text we want. So, yep, hello again. Say hello. And don't say anything, or don't say hello. And now if we go back to our play mode, we actually have option buttons that look like option buttons with some sort of command or player choice. Any questions so far? Is anybody reading questions from the chat? Because
Yes, don't worry. In case anything pops up,
anything philosophical. Yes, great.
Or less. Yes, once a philosopher, twice. Anyway, I'm off.
So let's change this a little bit and say, okay, we are in the you're in an ice cream parlor. The vendor or whatever that person is, vendor. I just keep putting U's in every word. I don't know. Asks you, hey kid, what will it be? And then we can say chocolate or vanilla. If I press tab, I can cycle from title to content, from title to content. Okay. And of course we can play this again from the beginning if we want to. This is the beginning, but we can restart by pressing this icon here. So you're in an ice cream parlor. The vendor asks you, hey kid, what will it be? Chocolate, vanilla, chocolate. I'd like a chocolate ice cream, please. Great. So nothing new so far. What we can do now, let's see another one of these entities here, which is the second icon. It's called a jumper. And how can we move this story forward? Let's say I'd like a chocolate ice cream, please. Here you are. Or we can go down the Monty Python version of things and say, sorry, we're out of chocolate. We're out of chocolate. I'm sorry. Now, so what is a jumper? This is a jumper. This is the second object that we can use in Arcweave, and this is an empty jumper. Basically, if we are having a large project with many elements and everything is connected to each other and there are lots of things happening, and we want to connect this element to another element which is far away. So this, let's say that this is far away and cannot be connected with one connection. We can actually use a jumper instead, which is an alias, like a link to any element we want. So I can connect my chocolate to this element. But now the question is, how do I specify which element? And there are various ways of doing that. One of them is I copy the element, either with right click and copy as jumper, or just by using the usual Control and C. And then I go here and either click that, paste this jumper, and now I have a jumper that leads me to the sorry element. And the good thing with that is we can actually have many boards. This is a board, as I said in the beginning. We can have many boards and we can have specifically, let's say, the chocolate side quest or whatever board, and our chocolate, our sorry element is actually on a different board, and we can still access it with a jumper. So this is the power of jumpers. We have the option to break down our story in multiple small diagrams, instead of having a huge diagram, a huge like spaghetti diagram with hundreds of elements and connections. We can just break it down, and we can have just a small scene in one board, another scene in the other board, some dialogue in a third board, etc. Okay, I hope everybody's okay with questions. And so now we've gone through the jumpers and gone through the boards. Jumper, okay. Since we're here at the boards, let's also add that you can organize your boards any way you want. So we can create folders for our boards, and we can say this is a folder with scenes, for example, and we can have another border for dialogues, or we can have a border with sequences, and then have like first sequence A, and then have the scenes inside. So you can create your folder structure any way you want.
Giannis, could you please once again explain what a jumper does?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so a jumper is basically a link to an element. All these are the elements where you can type your content, and a jumper is a way to direct the flow from one element to another, but let's say the other element is far away, or is in a place in a different board, or in a position in the board that is unreachable with physical means, like a connection that starts from one element and ends to the other. And this is really convenient because you have the link, which is the alias of the element, for example the sorry element here, and you can even click on this link here and get transferred or portaled, or whatever, what's the word, to the other element, to the element that it represents, which is called the target element.
Awesome. Thank you.
One thing we didn't actually mention, which is fun, is to change the colors of our elements. So I can right click any element and pick from this small palette of colors. So I can say the beginning, I want the beginning to be this color here. And these two options can be, I don't know, this one. And when you change an element color, you can also see that the jumper follows. So we can have this, and when we go back to the main board, the jumper has automatically followed with the same color. We can do the same with connections. So we can paint our connections, change their style. So we can go from Bezier curve to just line or polyline. Pretty sure it's not called polyline, but yeah. Right. Now we can let's see how Arcweave supports some audiovisual stuff. So we can have images and audio in our stories, and we can see them in our prototype. So far we've had only text. Let's see, you are in the ice cream parlor, the vendor asks you. So let's say I want to add, so I'm in my assets here, I have some images already imported, but you can import any image by pressing this plus icon, plus symbol, and you can upload your PNG or JPEGs or GIFs, I think, as well. So let's just drag one of those So now what I did was just drag the asset straight into the element. An alternative would be to just right-click the element and set the cover, because this is what I did. I created a cover image for the element. And now this opens my assets list, and I can pick, again, the same image here. And now when I go to my play mode, I can see the image, the cover image, along with the content and the options. And this makes a much more complete experience in terms of the interactive prototype. And I can also, in the same way, I can add audio. So I have two audio files here. One is a music file and the other one is a sound effect. So I'm going to just drag my music file. I can actually preview all my assets. So if I click any of the assets, it opens and I can download it if I want. If I don't have it on my drive, I'm in some other computer, I can download it, just see them. And also if it's an audio file, I can open it here and preview that. Can you hear that? Okay. So now I have attached the music file here, and let's say I'm just gonna put the same cover in those two. So I'm just chocolate image. It's a chocolate ice cream, please. Sorry. And now this, let's say if you get the vanilla, he actually gives you the vanilla ice cream and you can eat it. So I'll have a vanilla ice cream, please. Thank you. And now here you are. I'm gonna add the chewing sound effect, which it's my favorite. So yeah, let's put that here. And now when I play this, so this is the beginning. Just gonna do. By the way, let's have a look at a few more things in the play mode. So up here we have the restart button. This is the audio volume controller. And this one is the debugger. So we can open this and we can, first of all, undo. So if I press chocolate, I'd like a chocolate ice cream, please. And then we're on a dead end. And as an editor of the story, I'm thinking, oh, this is not good. I'd like to go back and replay the others. So this is open to the editors. It's not like anybody can access that. So undo, and go back to the first option here. And I can go to vanilla. And then I can play. For some reason, I didn't get the music though. Why didn't I get? Oh, there you go. So by replaying, I can hear the music as well. I can put it a little better. And then we go to everything is just coming together. Okay. Now let's see the components, which is the other area here where we can go, the other section, which is an empty section so far. But what are the components? Basically components are any story objects that we may need. So we can have a character, for example, could be a component, or items a character can carry or find in a location, or it can be a location itself, or evidence or clues in a detective story, or spells in a RPG fantasy setting, pieces of information, anything we want. Is like very flexible object. And let's actually create characters for our story. So I can create component and just add an untitled component, and I'm going to say this is called the kid.
Giannis, while you're doing that, I want to convey some questions.
Yeah, go on. Go ahead.
So there's one question whether Arcweave can handle files that are not PNGs and MP3s, or generally, like, what other type of asset files, file assets can it handle?
Hmm.
Does everything have to be a PNG, JPEG, or MP3? And the other question is whether you can resize the images and the covers to fit the screen.
Can I resize the images and the covers to fit the screen? For example, here in the play mode, you mean?
I imagine yes.
So if you can resize this to be like full width, or
Yeah.
no, this is, I mean, you can just zoom in, zoom out the whole thing with
Okay.
the browser zoom. But this is the play mode environment, at least for now. And we get the options underneath the content, and the content underneath the cover image. But
As
as we'll see here, this also we can also add the components when we attach a component, which we'll see right away. Now, in terms of the files, I mean, the documentation can correct me on this, but it's JPEG, PNG, and GIF, GIF. So, yep. So assets are JPEG, yes, PNG, and web, and the audio files are MP3, OGG, and WAV. Okay. So back to our components. Let's say this is the component for the kid, and I can again either drag from the assets straight into my component, or I can go here, change the cover, and find whichever cover I want, whichever asset I want. And oops. And now I can use this, for example, whenever I have a spoken line, I can use my component, and let's create one for the other character. Ice cream person, seller, and then I'll just drag, which one was it? Yeah, why not? So now I'll get rid of this, I'll get rid of the cover and try to have something more. I actually don't have. I could use a cover that is without any characters in. So like actually, why not? Let's create something using the AI we have implemented in Arcweave. So I'll just go to set cover, and instead of picking from my images, I'll go to generate and say the interior of an ice cream parlor with a window full of flavors. I don't know if that's gonna be anything useful, but I'm really not the best with prompts. With a window full of multi-flavored ice cream flavors. No, that's enough. Generate. So then this hopefully won't have any people in it. And then I'm going to use the components as the speakers. So whenever somebody speaks, we're going to change just the component, and it's going to be obvious who is the speaker. No. Close, but no. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's keep that now for the sake of our example. So now I have this, and I'm going to change the cover in all my other elements. And now I can create a format which is closer to the visual novel. So this is like the setup or the location or the background image. And I can say you're in an ice cream parlor. And the vendor asks you, hey kid, what will it be? And I can just add the vendor here. So if I drag a component inside an element, now what I have here is an attached component. And we can use the convention that this the character component that is attached in an element actually represents the speaker. So if I go to, I'd like a chocolate ice cream, please. This is the speaker. And I'd like a vanilla ice cream, please. This is the speaker. And now here you are. And where's the sorry?
And another quick question, Yanni.
Yeah.
The question is the what generator tool is used for the AI stuff?
The images uses DALI.
Okay. And whether the AI image generation is free and unlimited with the basic plan?
It's still in beta. It's still in beta version. Manos can answer this actually much more precisely than I am. So it's not exactly set how it's. I mean, we'll talk about this in the end, which we're going to show you other features as well, and how you can request access to that. But it's soon going to be released. I think at the end of February for all users. Yeah, Manos can answer these questions at the end of the presentation.
Awesome.
I'm sure.
Thanks.
So now I have to close my Discord thing. Right. Where's the main board? Here's our main board. So we have, this doesn't look like dialogue. So you are in an ice cream parlor. I could use another element just for the dialogue of the seller. Get rid of this and just do this. You're in the ice cream parlor. More description here. And then I'll just connect with that. And then I'll just have the clean lines of the ice cream. Oh, and I don't need to replay the music, of course. Okay, so we're ready to test this version of the story now. Let's just click play. Okay, then fair enough. So this gives us more like a visual novel structure where you can see the background and then you can just see the characters, the speaker change in front. We've actually planned a little break here. I don't know what do you think, Konstantinos? Should we just go on or take a break?
I would say that we're doing well on time, so I think we could go on.
Okay.
If you're okay with that.
So this basically concludes the basics of Arcweave. As you can see, they're quite simple, not many. So we have, just to recap, we have the boards. So the boards, a list of boards is right here where we can create a folder structure for them to keep them organized. One board can be, we can break down our story flow in multiple boards using jumpers. And the story itself is the flow. It's being created by adding elements and connecting them with connections, adding options, adding option text in labels. And inside an element, we can have a cover image. So yeah, we actually saw this, but I didn't comment on it, that once you get your cover image, it has this big size on the top, and once you get a component, you can see the component like a little window down here. And if you just add multiple components, you can see all of them one next to the other. Doesn't make sense in this scenario because this would mean that they're both saying the same line, but you could use it in some other case where you would need, for example, a character with the items they carry or whatever. And our assets are here. We can also add folders. So I have audio and images, and I could create my audio folder and just drag my audio files, my audio assets inside the audio folder, and another one for images. So yeah, all these. We've seen the play mode, and this pretty much concludes the basics. So you can already make a simple story with options and results, like a beginning, a middle, and an end, or multiple endings, or whatever. But now let's step up a little and go to the intermediate. Let's say we can create a more advanced narrative, and this will include variables and logic. So we can create situations where the game actually remembers what we've done because we've stored the information inside a variable, for example. So we could ask, for example, in this case where we have the ice cream, the game can remember if we first chose chocolate, or how much money the player is carrying, or what day is it, or whatever we want to include in our narrative. So let's in fact create our first variable. Let me make this full screen. Let's down here we can see it says global variables, and we can create a new global variable called money, and the type can be any of those four, like an integer, which is a number, like a rounded number, a float, like a 3.5 kind of number, 5.66666, a string, which is a word basically, and boolean, which only takes the values of true and false. So now for money, we're good to go with an integer. We won't do cents, so we'll just go for, let's say we have $5. Oh, come on, this is a game. Let's have $10. Okay, go crazy. And now you are in the ice cream parlor. So, okay, what will it be? I'd like a chocolate ice cream, please. Okay. Let's say that one of them is a very expensive ice cream. Let's say chocolate with the thingy on top or whatever, like a chocolate ice cream. And we can actually test, we can check whether we have enough money to buy that. And if not, we'll get a different reply. So right here, let's get rid of the sorry. And we need to check how much money we have. So let's make a note here, which we haven't talked about. These are the notes. You can drag a note. Another way to create all these objects is to right click and say create element, node, jumper, branch, and comment. So let's create a note here and say, okay, let's say the chocolate ice cream costs $11. Okay. And we only have 10. So now this would mean we need to test, we need to check how much money we have. If it's enough, then we can proceed with buying the chocolate ice cream. If not, we need to get some message that this isn't enough, kid, sorry, go home or buy a vanilla one. Now this can be done using another object in Arcweave called a branch. So we get a branch from here, and the branch's structure is a little if statement waiting to be completed, waiting to be filled in with a condition. And our condition is if, well, we are counting our money, so we have to count if money is greater than or equal 11, sorry, because that's how much it costs. Then we can buy that. So we can have the lady here saying, yeah, here you are. Or, and I can connect this to my branch. But what happens if this doesn't work? So else, I right click my branch and I add an else, not an else if, an else, just an else. So it's either you either have the money or you don't. So we don't have the money means, sorry. Actually, I can go to my sorry element, which is here. Here's a way of creating a jumper. This is another way of creating a jumper. You can just find your element here. So it's on Chocolate side quest board, element called sorry, and just drag it. So if I just drag that, I create a jumper to that. And now let's change the content a little bit so that it reflects. Sorry, we're out of chocolate. I'm afraid you can't. Ooh, what's that? I pressed some Windows funny button. I'm afraid you can't afford this, kid. Sorry. And great. So now let's see a few more things we can do with our I think I'll have to get rid of this music. By the way, we can create a global setting for our audio file. So if I go to my music file, I can actually set it like a global setting for it. So wherever we have this music in our project, now it's going to be in 20% or 21%. Now when I play this, it's in a much better volume. I'm still going to turn it off. So now if we open our debugger, we can see a few things that we hadn't noticed before. We can now see that our only variable, our global variable, is right here. It's called money. The previous value means the value before this element was rendered. And the previous value basically is the initial value, which was 10. If you remember, when we set it down here, we said initial value 10. Now, if we go to our choice, and I go to my chocolate choice, I'd like a chocolate ice cream, please. I'm afraid you can't afford this, kid, because that's 10, not 11. So if I go back, if we want to test this moment in our game, we can just add more money here. And now when we reach the branch that checks the money, we can actually buy it. Here you are. So this is a very good, this is a very convenient way to test certain moments of our story by changing the variables, see if some choice, some options may appear or get locked with various variable values. So, of course, the same would happen if we change this to 11 and just played it. So we would be able to get the ice cream. But here you are. So what happens if you buy that? You actually have to pay the money. So let's see how we can make an assignment to our money value variable. So here you are. I just create an empty line and I go to this. This is my formatting bar, my formatting menu, and I go to this icon here which says ArcScript code. Does it say tooltip? ArcScript code. Anyway, it's a code segment. I can create a little segment of code, and I can add here money is now minus or equals 11. Or basically I can say money now becomes money minus 11, which is another way of actually writing it as a shortcut. You can say money minus equals 11, which is a very, very common way, a common expression in programming. For those who don't know, it is really it's a thing for many, many languages, like programming languages. So let's get rid of one of those. Now this means basically that the variable money gets reduced by 11. So let's start with more money. Let's say we get 15. Start with 15. And let's play this on play mode and see how we can see these changes in the debugger. So now I start with $15 and I go to buy my chocolate. I'd like chocolate ice cream, please. So if you notice here, we eat that. And the previous value was 15, but the current value after the subtraction now is 4 because we've just subtracted 11. So this is one very simple way of using logic, using a variable for storing the money value, and check, also make a check here to see if you can if some condition is true or false, and proceed accordingly, proceed our flow. And flaw, we're all flawed. So now we've seen the branches, we've seen the if and else, we've seen ArcScript code segments inside an element. So far we've seen ArcScript can happen inside a branch, which is an expression of if something is true, or we've seen ArcScript inside an element, which is basically an assignment. Now I want the money to become minus 11 to be subtracted. Yeah, you know what I mean. What else? Anything so far? Any problems so far? Any questions? Oh, I see a lot of questions here.
Yeah, we do have a couple questions.
Yeah, go on.
So first question by Isaac is whether you can shift click on anything or something similar to move multiple assets at once into a folder. This is like
yeah,
question effectively.
That's something that we still haven't done for some stupid reason, but yes, I'm always kind of grumpy about this too. No, yep. So far you can just drag one by one, but hey, you used to be able to upload one by one, but now you can actually upload many. So hey, stay put. No, we're working on things like that all the time.
Okay, and the other question is whether there is a way to have two or more possible elements branching from a single choice and have a randomizer decide on the chosen element.
Yes. So ArcScript has the expressions that you saw here, which are very, very common expressions, but it actually has its own functions. It has a few functions of its own. One of them is called roll, which simulates the roll of a die or many dice. So we could use this in this story. Let's say we get rid of these, just move these a little bit, and let's say the kid just decides on a whim. So we can have, let's say, a roll, and the kid can have chocolate, I'll just create jumpers here so we don't mess everything up. So to paste as a jumper, instead of Control V, you use Control Shift and V. So I copy and Control Shift and V. And let's say I want another one, which is strawberry. Okay. Yeah, let's have just have 3. So now I want a way of randomly picking, randomly continuing the flow with chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry. So I need to create a variable. I can have one variable for all these cases. I can just call it temp result or something. And it's not going to be, it's global, but it's changing every time I want to create little situations like that. So temp result, it's an integer. And now, let's say just before this, it's a little gimmicky, but just before the actual roll, I can say, so this is my code segment. The shortcut for that is Control Shift and C. And I can say temp result. I want temp result to be, and now I'm going to use my roll function, which gives me the die roll. So roll 3. So I'm going to say I'm going to roll a 3-sided die, and I can get the result of 1, 2, or 3. This is how roll works. So like roll 20 means you get 1 to 20s, like the D&D die. But you can also roll multiple dice. So if I want to roll for my ability scores and D&D is basically roll 6, but 3 times. So like 3 dice of 6. This is how I would put it. And this would give me from 3 to 18. But now I just want roll 3. I just want 1, 2, or 3. And this is going to be stored in my temp result variable. And then once I have this, I don't know the result yet. Once I have this, I can say if temp result is 1, then I'm going to go for chocolate. And then I'm going to use the else if, which is a good opportunity to see the else if. Else if it's not 1, but it's temp result equals 2, I'm going to go for the vanilla. Else, which is number 3, I'm going to go for strawberry. So now if we can play this. So what will it be? I'd like a chocolate ice cream, please. Now if I go back, what will it be? I'll have a vanilla. Undo. What will it be? So now I can see the temp result here. The current value, I can cheat, and I know already that it's going to be a strawberry because I can see it here. Undo. It's going to be chocolate, etc. Now the reason I'm storing this in a variable is that, well, somebody might say, why don't I just put the roll inside the if condition? So like if roll of a 3-sided die is 1, then chocolate. Else if roll of a 3-sided die equals 2, then vanilla, and else strawberry. Can anybody tell me why this is not going to work? Ha, there's a test here. You didn't expect that.
Not really, no.
You cannot.
No, I wouldn't expect it.
Ah, okay. Yes, exactly. So it will roll. It will roll here to see if it's 1. Let's say it rolls a 2. Then it goes to else if, but it will roll again for this expression, so it won't be the same roll. It's like rolling the die every time. So now it's what we need is to store this, and then we can just compare the actual stored variable with the stored value with 1, 2, or 3. Since we're in functions, let's see the show function, which so we saw the roll function. Let's see the show function. The show function renders the value of any variable. So let's say after storing the variable here, I'd like to see it on the screen on the element content. So now I'm going back. I'm going to create another segment and say show temp result. And now if I play, I'll get 1, 2, or 3 basically here. What will it be? 1. So yeah. But I can also, inside the show, I can have multiple arguments like show, this is number, this is choice, number, and then, so this is the whole expression. This is choice, number, and then the number. And then I can add a full stop if I want. And now we have, hey kid, what it will be. This is choice number 3, full stop. Stop it. Right. And the other, well, there is one more very useful function which counts how many times we have seen an element. So it's called visits and counts the visits, how many times we've visited this element, how many times it has been rendered. So, hey kid, what will it be? I'm going to give another option here. So this is one option. Let's not forget that this is one option that can have 3 outcomes based on the result of the roll. But now I'm going to create a second option here. That's weird. I said here and it didn't. And I'm going to create another option for the kid to say it again. And I'm going to put the kid as a speaker. I'm going to put the back set cover, the backdrop. Say it again. And then I'm going to create a loop and just lead back to my question. Of course, I can just connect back to that. But because I don't like these things, I'll use a jumper just to keep things clear. So question, back to the question. So now I've created a loop and I can just go from one element to the other. Say it again. What will it be? Say it again. What will it be? Say it again. What's going to be? Vanilla. Say it again. Okay. So now let's see how visits work. So inside my show, I'm going to say I've seen this that many times. So that many times is expressed by visits. The visits function. So visits without any arguments means how many times we have visited the current element. So this is the current element. How many times we have visited the current element. So I've seen this that many times. So let's play this. I'm going to need like a little space here, so it's not sticking next to the right. There's something it doesn't like. Can anybody see what is wrong? Because oh, maybe, is that? Yeah, that's the one. Okay, great. So I needed to escape the character. So visits, back to our visits. And back to our element. So, hey kid, what will it be? I've seen this. I've seen this 1 times. Say it again. Okay, then I've seen this 2 times. Say it again. I've seen it 3 times, etc., etc. So this is one way to demonstrate how visits works, but this is not the way that it's actually used, because this is a pretty. Most of the times you actually want to do something in case if some element has been or has not been visited. So instead of using visits in a show, we can actually use it in a branch and create either lock or unlock options for the player. So what will it be? Say it again. Okay. Instead of using the say it again, what will it be? Let's say if, right. So I'm going to create a visit. I'm going to create an option that you can choose only once. So that's one way of using visits. I'm going to create a branch and check. Going to give a name to that element called repeat and say if not visits. Now I'm going to do something and then I'm going to explain it. So the add character, find the repeat element, and that's the expression. So if we haven't visited the repeat element, we get the option to actually go and visit it now. So what I did here, here's the expression. If not, so if this is the opposite of true, if not the visits of, now by pressing the at character, I get a list of all my elements, all the elements that have some sort of title are here, and I can just start typing repeat, and there it is. Press enter and close the parentheses. And this means, look, if I haven't visited the repeat element so far, and I can actually, this is a link that you can click and you can go to this element and make sure this is the one you want. So if this, let me get rid of the say it again. So if I haven't visited this element so far, I get the option to do so. Otherwise, if this is false, I get no flow from this connection. Nothing, no option appears. For me, only this one. So let's create a label for that. Say it again. And let's say that if we can add an else to that, and you know the seller can say, okay, that's enough with the nonsense. If you try to say it again, say it again. So I'm going to create a reply by the seller. And say that's enough. No, actually, don't want that. I want the background. Come on. Set play mode start. Yes. And set the, okay, that's enough. Where is that? That's what I wanted. And the seller. Thank you. So now, if we've already gone through the say it again routine, the next time I'm going to try this, I go through the else, and the seller says that's enough. Yeah, let's see this. So this is the beginning. Hey kid, what will it be? I've seen this 4 times. Let's restart. I've seen this 1 time. Say it again. And then go back. I've seen this twice, and that's enough. that's enough. Yeah, because I haven't actually put a label in this section here. So I can either just copy my label here, so I have twice the same label, or I can just create it once here, since it's always going through this label, and I always want to have, in both cases, I want it to have the same verb, same command. So now, say it again. And now if I try that, that's enough. So this is a very common use of visits. So we've seen visits with and without arguments. If we don't have an argument, it means the most recent or the current element. Otherwise, you do require to put a specific, like an explicit element title here. The way to put the element title is by using the at mention. So you put the at character at the start, and then start writing the repeat or whatever you want the element to be, and close parentheses, and then you get to check the visits of that element. Right. How are we doing with time and questions?
I
I'll get rid of
think
the
we're
sound.
doing fine time-wise. There haven't been any questions, any new ones. So
Yanni, I am wondering if it would make sense to try the design assistant with a project that you have created. See how it works.
This great project. How much time do we have? Wait, because I was thinking I could show like a larger project that I've already created and just see how this can be in a larger scale used, applied. But if we're pressed for time,
no, we're not.
Okay.
We're fine.
Okay, yep. So let's go to my projects here, and I'm going to show you the Arcweave project for a point-and-click adventure we did back a couple of years ago. So now, just to see in practice how these things how all these things are applied in a project that actually went through integration into Godot and created a point-and-click style, very short game of 2 rooms, but point-and-click style had an NPC which you could have multiple conversations with, had a few items that you could play with, like examine or interact with. So I've done, my components are characters, exits, items, dialogue flow commands, activities. What are those? Yeah, for example, inventory, add something, remove something, exit through an exit. These were not optimized back then. Now I know a few things more that I could probably optimize some of these. Okay, so I have you and Andreas. This is an NPC. Audio, had some sound effects. Action verbs. So we had walk, talk, examine, and handle. And then you would start here. The events. Sorry, player actions. Yes. So for example, combinations of verb plus item would create an element, would actually have a unique element. So if I went to some item, for example, talk to the NPC, talk to Andreas, this combination is unique, and this would be the element that would be the starting element of the dialogue, and then we would go to this dialogue start element, and this is how the dialogue begins, with a check of how far we've gone already inside the dialogue. So if we've discussed a few things, you would go from, I don't know, 1 to, you could maybe go to 3, which is this phrase here. So the first one is hello, hello, for example, bottleneck 1. who are you? What is this place? And you get the options here. As you can see, I'm using branches. If we haven't discussed what this place is, you can get the option to discuss what is this place, to ask what is this place, and then you go on with the dialogue. So we can see the speaker, and then once this is over, you go back to this, so it creates a loop, and then you can go through the other options. So this option won't be available now because we visited what is this place, and you can now choose, for example, who are you, and then this is unlocked once you've chosen who are you. We can also go to you're an NPC and you know it. So for example, okay, and if we've visited who are you, you can say, what are you doing here? And then once you move on, you can find bottleneck number 2, which is like a checkpoint. Once you reach checkpoint 2 and walk away, if you go back and talk to the character, the dialogue will actually continue from checkpoint 2. So it's not like repeating the whole thing. So it becomes a little smart, it knows where you are. And I'm using variables for that. So bottleneck equals 0 means it's the beginning of the dialogue. If you reach this place, this point of the dialogue now, it's bottleneck becomes number 1. Let's say this is the bottleneck variable, okay, whatever the name means, basically the state of the variable of the dialogue. We've reached that far in the dialogue. We've reached point 1 in the dialogue. That's what it means. And my variables are, yeah. So there are some topics, everything that starts with T. These are all my conventions. I mean, it doesn't have to be like that because I did the integration in Godot. I said whenever a variable starts with T is actually a topic to discuss. But whenever it starts with I, it's actually an item that you can take or examine. Right. That's one case. And back to this project. If we're done, before going to the image, to the designer assistant, just a few words about what you can do with this project. So once you've done the Arcweave work, which you can always come back to, but the integration continues by going to export. And to export your project, you can export as JSON, which is you also have the option to download the assets as well. Let's say we don't want the assets, so you export as JSON, and then you can use this JSON in your game engine to get your narrative in your game. But also there are you can also export a backup of your Arcweave file. That's another option. Image, oh yes, an engine. These are specific, engine specific. So you get export for Godot, for Unity, and for Unreal. There are matching our plugins so the Arcweave plugin for Godot, for Unity, and Arcweave plugin for Unreal, which is again JSON files, but more friendly to the specific engine. And I can, there's also the option to use the API. If you are using a team account in Arcweave, you get the option to use web API, so you can fetch your data from a project into your game through the web, like by clicking a button. You can just fetch the data and go back to Arcweave, create your edits, do your edits, make rewrites or whatever, and then just click a button on the other side, on the engine side, and fetch your new story or your updated story. Right, so we've recently added some AI features in Arcweave. One of them you've seen already, which is the image generator. We can use the image generator from inside a component, so you can just change the cover and just go to generate directly the cover of a component. We've also, there's another option that you can just auto-generate the element cover as long as you have some description here that means something, which I don't. But if I actually had a description here that meant something, you can just auto-generate cover, and it uses the description and the title as prompt, so you don't need to add another prompt. And we've seen how you can actually set the cover from here by generating. So we've gone through the image generator. The other features that we can use is the element enhancer. So if I go here, you are in an ice cream parlor, more description here. Okay. And I go down here and say enhance element. I can say write an elaborate description for the ice cream parlor. And then I'm out of ideas. So I just press enhance and I just become more stupid every day. But there you go. The ice cream parlor exudes a charming vintage elegance with warm wooden accents and blah, 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 blah. Okay, yes, that's too large, too long. Can you make this shorter? Make this shorter and snappier. Snappier? Yes. Didn't like that. Let's do it again. Enhance element. Make this shorter. Manus, help. I don't know why it doesn't like that. Yeah, I'll just try something else. Enhance element. Make this dark and gloomy. Do you think it's my web, my connection or something? Can you hear me all?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
For some reason, I keep getting invalid responses from the AI. That's convenient for a webinar. Well, yes. Let me refresh once.
Also, Manos is saying that this could be triggering the safety measures for some reason.
Or what? It's actually its own text is triggering safety. Yes. Okay, I'll just try it one more time, and then we'll go to the other one. Enhance element. Come on. Make it shorter. Now it worked. So now it's just summarized it or just create the shorter version of that. But I can try things about the tone. Could be dark. Let's try the gloomy one. Enhance element. So make the tone, make it dark and gloomy with horror elements and horror elements and macabre. Okay, let's try that. I think it's scared of its own creation. No decapitations. Okay. Well, let's move on then. I don't know why it keeps getting some invalid responses, but let's see the other feature, which is the generate element, the element generator. So starting from our let's say element here, let's pick this one. I'll just get rid of the extra. Hey kid, what will it be? So now in this element I have my ice cream seller, and I want to generate a reply where the kid, and I can actually mention my component. The kid asks for a dish not included in the ice cream parlor's menu. Let's see what we can get. So now, contrary to the enhance element, we actually get a new element, generated element. And the actual command is ask for spaghetti ice cream. Okay, great. And the kid looks up with a cheeky grin. Do you have spaghetti ice cream? The ice cream seller blinks in surprise, clearly caught off guard by the unusual request. It doesn't exactly keep my spoken line scenario, like format, but it came up with a nice idea of a spaghetti ice cream. Now, the fact that I'm mentioning the component, this is what we didn't talk about that, but the components, you can either attach them or you can actually mention them in the text. Let's make a little mention about the mentions. So the kid, if I go to, instead of just typing the kid, I can mention, and to do that, again, I use the add character and I get a list of all the components and all the boards. So I can also mention boards. But let's say I want to mention the ice cream seller. Now I get this piece of text here, which is orange. It has a link to it. When I click on it, I open the relevant component. And the good thing about that, another good thing about that, is that I can change the name, ice cream vendor. And once I go back, the name has been updated everywhere in my project. So if there is a name, for example, of a character that I'm not sure of, I can just rename it here, and wherever it's mentioned, it's going to automatically be renamed. Back to our element generator. Now, using the actual mention of the component gives us an advantage, and that is that we give Arcweave access to any information included in components, which we haven't talked about much at all, other than how to change the cover. So inside a component, I can store information about whatever the component is about. So this is a character. I can store information about my character. So I can say the name of the character is Sonia, for example. The age of the character is 6. Loves daisies, cats, and modern architecture. And now, basically, when I mention my component, I give Arcweave access to all the information included in the kid component. And the same happens if I just mention the component in the prompt, which is what I did here. Yes, no. So now let's try another generation, another element generating result. Do you have spaghetti ice cream? And I can say generate element.
Gianni, I think we're approaching the end of our time.
Oh, so perhaps, that's right. Can I just try this maybe? And then
just keep in mind that we should wrap up soon.
Explains something she likes, she loves. It describes. So now we have access to whatever the kid loves, as I've created an attribute inside the component. Describes loves. Yes, the ice cream parlors. What even is spaghetti ice cream? The kid giggles. It's like ice cream. I saw it in a video. Oh, and I love cats and daisies too. Do you like cats? Okay, So that was a bit of a silly example, but let's move on to the final tool, the AI feature in Arcweave, which is the design assistant. And it's up here, and you open it here, and you can actually ask questions about your own project and about Arcweave functionalities. So for example, I can say which characters are in this story. And the story includes two main characters, the kid and the ice cream vendor. It has also included the links to the components, so I can open my components right away. Or I can just ask, how do I create a jumper, which we've seen. To create a jumper in Arcweave, you can follow these simple steps. And of course, obviously, this is much more useful in larger projects where it's difficult to navigate and not just a project with a few elements and a couple of boards. But it can also, and it can also suggest ideas or spot typos or several uses of the assistant. But as Manos has said, we've eaten up all our time. So do we have time for questions, or shall we?
Yes, I would say that. Let me turn back my camera. I would say that yes, we could easily take some time for questions. So, but before that, let me again thank you so much, Giannis. That was great and actually easy to parse and understand and see how things work. And I would argue that this would also be a very good example of what technical design is. It actually shows you that it's not just about deciding on how to branch your story, on how to, write your dialogue. It's also on about the logic itself. So anyway, let's see if we have any questions. So Raymond is asking, how well can the AI design assistant help them improve the overall story? How much of the story is it aware of?
It's actually aware of the whole JSON, but there are problems when it's a huge project. So we are working on that. So how we can actually deal with a larger project, not larger than that, but larger, like thousands of elements. Other than that, yes, it is going through the whole JSON to find the answers, and it's going pretty well so far. We'll see.
Awesome.
Still in beta, as we said.
Yeah, to add something to what Giannis mentioned is that the current fallback that we are using, if a project is too large, because it actually loads the whole project data to figure out connections between the story and the nodes. If the project is too large and it exceeds the context window of the model, then we only read the current board.
Okay, also, having said that, sorry, Mano, because Isaac is asking whether we could tell them what the import process would look like for Unreal, or like very roughly, don't go into extreme detail.
Well, I cannot say much other than you can either export the JSON and use this in some way with your blueprints, or use the API. We do have, though, for all three plugins, we have example projects. So there is a GitHub, which I don't have at the tip of my fingers now, but there is a GitHub for the Unreal. Is that right, Manos? We have a GitHub for the Unreal, for the Unity, and they all have a little example along. And so you can study the example. We have videos on that, on all three projects, all three engines, and hopefully they are informative for your case as well.
So I plan to add RenPy integration.
RenPy is something that we do have in our sites, but we are though seeing more and more people asking for it lately. So it's definitely gaining traction. If there's a lot of if there's many people asking for it, we'll definitely going to consider adding an integration with RenPy.
This is how you access how many whatever you have in your project. So if you go up here to the cog, go to properties, we have 11 boards, 396 elements. How many branches, jumpers, nodes? I have a lot of jumpers. I use jumpers a lot. And the total word count. Yep. So
next question would be whether there will be a way to request that the AI features are turned on or off for accounts.
Yeah, I mean, we are aware that some people like them, some people hate it. So we want people to be able to choose whether they want this to be used or not. But in any case, we're not sending data in third parties or out of Arcweave for training purposes or anything. It's all a closed system. But you can still turn it off.
Okay. And so regarding the how well the AI gets the story, there's an expanded question is like what Raymond was asking is, if you ask the AI what should the next conflict in the story be, or what would a good conclusion be, whether it would be capable of suggesting some interesting ideas, something like that.
Well, in my test, it actually had done pretty well. It figures out where the end is. It can suggest possible. I mean, I asked, how can I make the game more difficult? It suggested a few things. Some of them were arithmetical, like increase the damage there, or some of them were diegetical. So you could say introduce a character that does this and this. So yeah, it's actually quite good. I was impressed because I was very trying to corner it a lot, but it did pretty well.
Awesome. So I don't see any other questions.
Great.
So I guess that this would be a good cut-off point. So first of all, let me thank you, Giannis and Manos, for being here, and thanks, Giorgos, for being here too, and thank you to everyone else for sticking around. Hopefully, you found this as interesting as we did, and with that, both from us at D6 Learning and from Manos and Giannis at Arcweave. So it's goodbye, good night. Hope to see you again.
Just for reference, I'm adding our socials and interesting links in the chat once again for those of you who entered the meeting late. So these are D6 Learning socials and links for our Discord server where we invite everyone to be there, and as well as Arcweave's links and a link for Arcweave's running jam on it.io. You will find these very useful.
And with that, I will stop the recording.